TCU football, they're going to ruin the college football debut of the greatest coach of all time. I'll talk about it next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. TCU football, they open the 2025 season. That's right. We're already talking about it. 2025 will be here before we know it. They open the season on, right now, it's set for Saturday, August 30th, against North Carolina on the road in Chapel Hill, another ACC opponent to begin the year. This season they took on famous ACC team Stanford Cardinal. Won that game. The other ACC team they played didn't go so well in Dallas, but opening the season against North Carolina. And if you're thinking after that cold open, what the heck are you talking about? North Carolina has a head coach vacancy currently. Mack Brown stepped down after the regular season. They did qualify for a bowl game. They played the rivalry game against NC State. Mack held a press conference afterwards, said he was moving on and would be retiring. Did a nice job there, winning as coach in the school's history. Of course, he did that in two separate stints. But when he took that job, I was like, I don't think that's going to work. And he made it work in some ways. But it's been a carousel trying to find who the new coach is going to be. And so far this offseason, it's been a very quiet coaching search. Or I guess I should say there's not a lot of great jobs open at the moment. West Virginia's open. They're still trying to figure that out. North Carolina's open. They went after John Summerall, who is the current head coach at Tulane. He told them, you know what, I think I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to take any major power conference jobs at the moment. I'm going to keep chopping the wood here and keep building this program. But a name that's been circling around for about a week now is Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time. Had just an unprecedented run with the New England Patriots. Of course, that was coupled with Tom Brady being the quarterback, but he built that team around Brady, and they just had consistency that we've never seen before in that sport, specifically, in the free agency era at least. He gets let go, or him and Robert Kraft decide to part ways, and this past offseason didn't really get much interest from NFL teams. Talked to the Falcons for a bit, and that was about it. There was a big story that came out on ESPN sort of detailing his exit New England, and organizations and people in the NFL talking about how kind of felt like the game was passing him by, or maybe not the game, but just the way he did business, the way he worked, the way he operated, not being conducive to the current state of NFL franchises. So he's been doing media stuff. He does a podcast or a segment with Ryan Clark each week. He goes on the Pat McAfee show every week. And allegedly he's considering and talking about taking the North Carolina job. And Ollie Connolly, who is a former NFL and college scout and currently writes for a newsletter, he's been on this story for a bit. And this morning he had this update. Belichick has agreed to become the next North Carolina coach. He handed the school a 400-page organizational Bible with structure, payment plans, staffing choices, etc., decisions on whether to commit with North Carolina. He is expected to know their decision within 24 hours. Belichick's Bible would require historic levels of investment from the school, include salary minimums, position by position, and a willingness to hire two staffs, a college coaching staff run by Belichick, a recruitment staff run by a sitting college general manager who would require a buyout. So, not surprisingly, Bill Belichick doesn't need to work. And he's basically telling UNC, I'm going to call the shots here. If you want to have somebody of my prowess and my ability in this spot, here's what you need to do. 400-page organizational Bible. That is quite a hefty document. Now, Conley didn't mention this, but some other things that have been reported about what he wants and how this is going to get done is he wants the school to promise him that his son, Stephen Belichick, would take over as the acting head coach whenever Bill's ready to move on. Which, I mean, Bill's getting up there. He's in his 70s. Maybe he takes the job for 5 years. Maybe it's only 2. But he wants to ensure that his son, Stephen, would be the person to take over. When he leaves, Stephen's currently the defensive coordinator at the University of Washington. Apparently, Bill's been spending a lot of time there looking into college football. He also sort of said the quiet part loud when he was talking about his recruiting pitch, how would he get people to sign with North Carolina? He was basically like, look, if I take over a program, I'm creating a college program that is going to be a pipeline for NFL players. Guys that can play in the NFL, I'm going to treat them like NFL players and make sure they are ready for the next level. Which is it's a powerful sales pitch. Who knows NFL talent better than Bill Belichick? And he went as far as to say guys that aren't going to make the NFL, because there's a lot of players in college program that won't. I'm going to teach them what to do, how to do it, values that will set them up in whatever arena of life they decide to go into. So he wasn't talking a lot about playing school. As Cardell Jones once famously said, we're not here to play school. And that's been the case for a long time. It's been more prominent in the past decade or so, but Bill's basically saying, hey, the idea is you come here and this is like, IMG Academy has turned into a factory for athletes that want to go play at the college level. And now Bill's basically saying, listen, I want to do the same type of thing here, but it's essentially kind of a farm system for the NFL. So what does this mean for TCU? If they end up opening the season facing off against Bill Belichick, well, Sonny Dykes, get that game plan ready, buddy, because he's obviously an outstanding coach, great at in-game adjustments. There's all kinds of famous stories about Bill and how he was just so good at taking away a team's strength. I imagine you'll be able to watch TCU's film from this past year and break it down well and have a great game plan, especially on the defensive side of the ball, for what the Frogs want to do. It would also mean, and I saw Jeff Mitchell mention this on Twitter today. Jeff works for 247 Sports as a podcast with Jeremy Clark. He said, if Belichick gets this job, then there's a great chance that this game gets flexed to Sunday night, maybe Monday, maybe a Friday standalone type game. Because that first weekend of college football, there's always Saturday, Sunday, Monday games, Friday games too, a couple Thursday games. So you basically have a 100% chance that you're going to be on a national stage, which is good for TCU. Because along with getting better as a program, one thing they're combating right now is they're just not in the national conversation much. A lot more games on ESPN Plus this year than I think we would like. Now, the last time they were on a stage like this against a very famous coach, or I guess I should say a very famous person who's become a really good coach, was when they played Colorado and Deion Sanders in the season opener on Fox, and we know how that went. But it would give TCU the opportunity to be on the national stage again. And if we're talking about optimism and what this team could be, think about the confidence that it would instill in this coaching staff and this football team if they went and beat Bill Belichick. I don't care that it's not the guy who was sitting in the snow with a sleeveless hoodie on when they were beating the Colts in the AFC Championship game. It's still Bill Belichick. I don't know what his personnel is going to look like. Don't know what his team looks like. But if you walk into that stadium and beat him head up, that's going to put you in the national conversation. I would think if you're not in the top 25, there would probably be some votes. And it would give this team a lot of confidence moving forward for what we think is a year where they're going to be set up to make a run and be a factor in the Big 12 championship race. From North Carolina's perspective, as crazy as the demands might be, and I will say, I mean, the nepotism aspect of this is where I might draw the line. Because, okay, you want to be the coach, great, but you want to promise this to your son when we don't even know what it's going to look like when you get the job. That's sort of outlandish. At the same time, though, what do you have to lose? It reminds me of what Colorado did. And I know they're very different because Mac Brown did a nice job there. So it's not, I mean, he's coming into a team that was 6-6, but it's not like they were 2-10. That Colorado team Deion took over was awful. People like to criticize him for how he went about doing the portal and cutting those players. I get it. Maybe there was a better way to do it, but he had to shuffle the board to get the talent he needed to compete, and to his credit, he did that. But Colorado looked at it like, you know what do we have to lose? This guy's done a nice job at the FCS level. We're totally irrelevant right now as a football program. He's going to put eyeballs on us. If it doesn't work, we can move on and do something else, but how much worse can it be? And it's paid off for him in a huge way, in ways that they probably couldn't even imagine, even though, you know, they haven't won a conference title or been in the playoff or anything, but people talk about Colorado football each and every week, and they've gotten better. Now he's got to do it without Shedeur and Travis Hunter, but you know he's going to have great talent in there each and every year. North Carolina, it's a basketball school. Go look at my buddy Isaac Shade, who does a great job hosting the Locked On Tar Heels podcast. This is not me criticizing him. It's just the truth. Go look at his page. It's all basketball content. And rightly so. You got to play the hits. You got to do what people are interested in. North Carolina basketball is a national brand. It might even be a global brand. People all across the country care about North Carolina hoops. They're not that interested in UNC football, but they'd probably be interested if Bill Belichick took over. And TCU would have a great chance with a number of returning players and a lot of continuity on their coaching staff to go in there and get a huge confidence-building victory and something that they can use as a foundational block for the rest of the season if they could beat the greatest coach of all time. So something to keep an eye on, Bill Belichick in Carolina. I mean, according to Ollie Conley, we should know something today, whether they're going to make this move or not. And if you're UNC, again, I'm just like, okay, he wants some crazy stuff. And he says he's not willing to negotiate. Does he mean that? Maybe call his bluff and see what happens. But what do you have to lose here? Fascinating story. TCU might open the season against Bill Belichick in 2025. When we come back, what is the team going to look like if and when they take on the famous Patriots coach in August of 2025? We'll discuss some of the transfer portal targets next here on Locked On Horned Frogs. Your team, we do it here every day. One of our most loyal sponsors, FanDuel. You can go to FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app. Make one $5 bet. You win that bet. You get $150 in bonus bets. Listen to that return. $5 bet. Win that bet. $150 in bonus bets. And they got this new deal right now. You can live bet on NFL games. So if you're feeling a certain way, once the game starts, check out what that line is. Check out what the over-unders are. You can do it at FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. They're the only sports book that's allowing you to do things like that mobily. FanDuel.com, FanDuel app. You hit one $5 bet, get $150 in bonus bets. Give FanDuel a try today. If you missed it yesterday, I did an entire first segment on, okay, portal's open. So as of December 9th, guys are officially in the portal, and schools can contact them. We're going to get visits starting as early as this week. Who is TCU interested in? What are they looking at? Sonny Dykes told us in a press conference, I think it was after maybe the Arizona game, and he said, look, we're not going to be shy about this. We need to replace production at the wide receiver position. They're losing a ton there. Savion Williams, Jack Best, J.P. Richardson. The list goes on. You got Eric McAllister coming back. You got some young guys they like. Doozy Azukama. Braylon James from the transfer from Notre Dame. Jakyle Baker. But not a lot of proven commodities. So you need help there. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm an insider. I never have. That's not my thing. But sometimes people tell me things. When Joseph Manjack hit the transfer portal, he was a wide receiver from Houston. When he announced he was going to hit the transfer portal, I got a couple messages from people that are plugged in with the Houston program. And they told me, hey, there's strong mutual interest between him and TCU. And they could see him ending up there. 351 yards last year on 22 receptions. The year before that, over 500 yards. Kind of an old school guy, runs out there with no gloves. But possession receiver, not somebody who's going to break away and make like crazy athletic plays, but very consistent, very solid, and the type of guy who should be able to come in and quickly figure out what you want to do, how you want to use them, those kind of things. So I saw Jeremy Clark also mention that there's active communication happening between TCU and Manjack. And there's a great selling point right now for the staff, not just in the fact that Josh Hoover's coming back. That's awesome. They're going to throw the ball a lot. And they've done a really nice job lately of finding ways to get guys involved and adjusted in an offense. I mean, Jack Besh moving to the outside, making plays, making things happen. That's totally changed his future as far as talking about NFL prospects and that type of thing. Savion Williams, same deal. Different story. They moved him in the backfield. They put him a Wildcat quarterback. They know how to get that done, and that means something. So Joseph Manjack, Houston wide receiver, actually started his career at USC. That's a name to watch in the coming days. I think there's a really good chance that he ends up committed to TCU and can be part of this transfer portal class. As far as the other wide receivers, Chase Sowell from East Carolina, who had over 600 yards receiving last season, about 20 yards per reception. Now, this is a guy that's getting recruited by everybody. I saw he's going on a visit to Houston. A lot of the Texas schools are involved, SMU being one of them, Florida, Ole Miss. So there's going to be stiff competition for him. But he's from Humboldt, Atascocita, so from the Texas area. Hopefully TCU can sell that. And once again, the fact that, they're able to make guys into home run threats. He's going to be on the outside, and him on the other side, Eric McAllister, gives you some really intriguing possibilities. Watching his ECU tape, just really strong hands and the ability to make things happen after the catch. Turn up the field, snag the ball, turn up the field, make somebody miss, get extra yardage, which is what you want. You want that yak yardage for sure. Luke McGarry, tight end from Tulsa, who doesn't have a super impressive stat line from a receiving standpoint, was used pretty effectively in the red zone the past few years. But I think this is an evaluation on a guy who is pretty nasty in the blocking game and could help your run game and your pass protection. And TCU needs some more physicality at that spot. There just wasn't enough of it this year. Part of that was losing Chase Curtis to injury, but overall, they just need more help there. And I also saw Jeremy Clark report that, and this was on social media as well, Caleb Goody, Colorado State Rams wide receiver, also offered by TCU, 436 yards on 21 receptions, 4 touchdowns, about 20 yards per catch. And this is another situation where it's going to be highly competitive. A lot of offers have been extended here, and not a huge like number of receptions, but made the most of it when he got the ball in his hands. And he's only a sophomore, so a lot of room to grow. So far, Kansas State, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Vandy, Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Arizona, and Tulane. So wide receiver, a huge position of need for this team. Now, I'm hopeful. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Hopefully we see a lot of Ryan Hughes in the bowl game. I think that's going to tell a lot of the story next year. But, man, I would go get a tackle. Somebody asked me, I'll get to this now. Somebody asked me in the YouTube comments, and it might be the same person. They also messaged me on Twitter. Mitchell, he was like, hey, I just wanted to know, I saw Micah Hudson's in the portal. Micah Hudson, if you forgot, 5-star wideout from Lake Belton. Committed to Texas Tech, was part of their 2024 class. That was a huge win for Tech. Cornerstone of that recruiting class. Highest rated recruit they've ever had. Well, he's in the portal as well. And they were like, would TCU be interested? I mean, the short answer is yes, they're going to be interested. But again, I mean, Texas A&M, I saw he's going on a visit there. LSU, Texas. Everybody wants Micah Hudson. And this might sound dumb. Good caveat by me. But the way TCU's roster is constructed currently and just the success they've had at wide receiver, go for Micah Hudson. I think that's great. Go for it. But I would rather break the bank for a big-time left tackle or a great pass rusher than an outside wide receiver. Even somebody like Hudson, who I think has the potential to be a dominant type of player. So we'll see if there's any kind of mutual interest there. I'm sure they picked up the phone and called. I don't know if they got a response or not, though. So that'll tell the story in that regard. When we come back, some more of your thoughts on the show and where the football program is, any other random things, questions, those types of things. Coming up next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. You need that great gift idea. You're like, man, what do I get this person? Show them that I care about them. How about you try Omaha Steaks? 50% off right now at omahasteaks.com, and you get an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. It's guaranteed perfection in every single bite, and now you can save on unforgettable gifts with 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. 5 generations of experience. They consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks make it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages featuring gourmet favorites. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off statewide for a limited time at omahasteaks.com. And again, an extra $30 off with the promo code COLLEGE. On Tuesday's show, we discussed some transfer portal targets. We got into that New Mexico bowl game matchup against Louisiana, which we'll have plenty on that later in the week as well. Frog fan, switching gears a little bit. Frog fan says, do you think with the new AD, Jamie Dixon could be on the hot seat? It feels like there were a few good years, but most now are just looks like we're making it to March and falling behind in how the Big 12 is moving in hoops. So if you've listened to this podcast for a long time, you'll know that I was on the train of we got to get Jamie out of here during the COVID season. They were struggling. Program looked listless. The second year in a row where they got knocked out in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, didn't even make the NIT. And I was really frustrated. And since then, he's turned things around. Can I say this? This is not me copying out. I'm going to give an answer. It's a tough dilemma. I truly do see both sides of it. On one hand, you have unprecedented success with this guy at the helm. And I was on campus when TCU basketball was rough. Just transitioning into the Big 12. And aside from a miraculous win against a Ben McLemore-led Kansas team that year, there wasn't anything to cheer about. I was there when they went 0-18 in conference play. 0-19 if you count the first round loss to Texas in the Big 12 tournament. We're a far cry from that. But it's the age-old question of, okay, this person got you to a place you've never been, but can they get you any further, or do you have to get new blood in there to really make it work? So the short answer is yes. With a change in leadership, I think somebody else can see this very differently. But ultimately, it comes down to TCU has to decide what they want to be in college hoops. If the university and the program is and the people behind it are content with being a team that typically makes the NCAA tournament, which in comparison to the rest of TCU basketball history is significant, then no, I don't see a change coming. But if somebody else gets in here and says, you know what, I feel like we got to push the envelope more in basketball, well, then that changes the game in a big way. Liam asked if I think J.P. Richardson will play in the bowl game. Good question. I mean, I think J.P., he's going to want to give the NFL a go. I would say he probably does. Yeah, I think he gets out there and plays and tries to put out some more good tape. If he doesn't, it'd be super intriguing to see where they went at that spot, because you could go Jordan Bailey or maybe Major Everhart. There's some options. But if I had to guess, I'll say yes, J.P. Richardson will play. I don't think Savion Williams or Jack Bech will play, even though Sonny Dykes said that he thought they might. Brian Caper says he appreciates the show and he's still bummed for Sunday, but hopefully it could be a learning experience for the women's team, talking about that loss against South Carolina. Thank you, Brian. And, I hope it's a learning experience too, and hopefully they can bounce back in a big way. I'm not super concerned after that game. Just South Carolina feels like they're on another level. And then Byron says we need to hang 60-plus on Louisiana. Heck yeah, brother. Let's go do it. Don't know if they can, but I'd love to see it. And go win that bowl game convincingly for sure. I think that'd be big for this team going into the offseason. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast.